to Theater 3, we have from 2004, I should say, Primer, starring Shane Carruth and David Sullivan, written, directed, everything by Shane Carruth. The guy is a friggin' genius, man, to even just write this script. Like, he's smarter than me.
Well, this was a mathematician's movie, so I mean,
It sure was, and
he's a mathematician.
Brilliantly so.
Like
So-
he had like careers in like science and shit before.
No, he
this
was an
whole
engineer. He was an
film,
engineer.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Who they do
I'm gonna
math.
say this. This feels like a mathematician's movie because there isn't a whole lot of emotion behind it. It was all just like
But
heady
see,
science
there's points in
and
this movie where
jumping
my
around
heart
time.
starts pumping because of the emotion involved. Like,
I have to
which I'll
agree with
explain when we get there.
I have to agree with Murphy on this
Right.
one. The performances, like, they're good, but they are jilted. They are not to the same, like, it's very monotone.
There's no
Even
actors in this
Yes,
movie.
there's no scenes where like some dramatic actor is doing this great dramatic speech. No, it's the situations that are dramatic, like the fact that
Yes.
like, the doubles have to leave their family because one of them claimed it first. You know what? Basically, like there's a lot of heartbreaking things that happen and very tense things that happen. So, look, no word of the lie. This is probably my favorite movie. I was hoping it still would be. I haven't seen it in probably 10
Like-
years, but
like ever.
15 years ago, yeah, probably. I love this movie. I love what it is. I think it's a very important piece of cinema history because, like, for every smart movie that's made like this, which I don't know, there's probably only like 5 ever, maybe. There's a million dumb as hell, bang your head off the friggin' desk stupidity movies. Like there's a million Fast and Furious movies, a million Transformer movies, and one of these. And one of these is far more important than all of that trash. So it's okay to be smart. It's okay to do a smart movie. It's not for everybody. This movie is not for everybody. It's not for the Transformers crowd necessarily. Like
the Fast
no
and
offense,
Furious people.
Transformers fans, the Fast and Furious fans. It's
Right.
like there's no vroom vroom, yay yay car jump. Like there's none of that. This movie you actually have to sit down and pay attention to. It doesn't actually explain anything to you. There's no exposition. You're just hearing pieces of conversations, and you have to like piece it together. And it took me like 5 viewings.
You're
to
not
figure
hearing
it all out.
pieces of conversations. You're hearing 5 conversations at once. And this is a J cut fest. This entire movie is just J cut after J cut after J cut of 5 conversations happening at once, and then like 7 different timelines happening. I'm gonna be straight with you, Devin. I don't think it's a great film, and I don't feel like you should need to watch a movie 9 times just to understand the plot. I watched this movie twice. The first time I
that's
fell
why I love
asleep
it.
in the last 10 minutes because I was so fucking bored with it. And the second time I watched it, and I kept tabs of what was going on better to that degree. But even then, I was like, there's like glaring plot holes, and I had to go watch a
There are none.
YouTube video.
There are no plot holes.
There are.
There are none. We'll get there. What one? Where's the plot hole?
I mean,
That's like I thought there was too. I had to watch this movie 5 times over 15 years, but now that I have, it all makes perfect sense and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like mathematically sound. It's scientifically sound. I think it's a good thing that you can watch this movie and have to watch it more times to understand it because that's an indication of the intelligence of its writing. If like they could have put 30 minutes of exposition into this movie and it would definitely have been more watchable upon the first viewing, but it wouldn't have been a better movie. It would have been a dumbed down movie. And that's not what this is. This is supposed to it would have ruined what this movie is if they'd have done that.
Okay, I want to lean more toward Davan on this argument, but I also see like Murphy's point here because every time I watched it I think 3 times. And each time I watched it, I kept wanting the movie at some point to just explain to me which timeline is it? Which Like just a little bit. You don't have to spell it out for me, but I shouldn't have to like go through each little thing in the movie and go, oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's that timeline, or oh, that's that double doing that. And I'm just like, oh, I just got to a point where I was just like, can you have a narrator? Just explain it
There are
a little bit.
Well,
seven
the
versions
narrator
of these
is
characters.
second Shane, or whatever his name
Aaron.
is in the movie. It's Aaron.
His name's
The
Aaron.
second Aaron is the narrator.
Okay, so the movie starts. All right, hang on. Let's just watch the trailer first, and then we'll get into this because like we're gonna make a mess of this if we try not to.
I mean, you've got the $400 billion. You've gone the charity route. You have this perfect 100-room mansion with matching his and her yachts and helicopter pads. How do you fill your day? What do you do?
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read this, and you're going to listen. You're going to stay on the line, and you're not going to interrupt. You're not going to speak for any reason. Some of this you know. I'm going to start at the top of the page.
Inside the box, it's like a street. Both ends are cul-de-sac.
They took from their surroundings what was needed and made of it something more.
Darren, I can
ending is
imagine
awesome.
no way in which this thing
Oh,
would
this
be
movie's
considered anywhere remotely
This
close
is
to
a
safe.
perfect movie, fellas.
Why not the lottery?
But I knew you weren't gonna like
You
this.
have a margin account, right?
Like, I 100% was confident in that.
I did not like it.
For now, though, if you wanted to, you can just tell her you had a good day.
It didn't have enough.
But I don't
like,
think of
really
it- I don't-
badly
I don't
designed
consider this a
CGI
first-
cars
Come with it,
having
okay?
sex. Like, that's what Murphy calls a good scene.
Come here for a second. You bleeding? Did you
That's
see
just
that?
absurd.
I swear that was
humor.
him. What the
That's
hell is he
what I
doing?
call a good
Just sitting
scene.
outside my house at
Absurd
2 in the
humorism.
morning.
Dumb
There's no way I would tell anyone about this. No way.
Stupidism.
Can you think of any reason that
This
you
movie
might?
is
No, I
genius.
can't. Sometimes we do things. No, we don't know how we got to that. No, I can't.
And it's genius
Can't
because
what?
it actually
I can't
does
think of any
give you
reason why I
enough to
would.
figure it all out. You really have to pay attention, but it gives you everything you need.
There was
without
value
the
in the
exposition.
thing,
It is
clearly,
beautifully
that they were certain
directed
of.
as well. Like, but the Aarons, you can tell by what they're wearing which one's which. And there's only two Abes, and it's usually one Abe spying on the other Abe, so it's not hard to.
There's not two
We'll make
Abes.
money.
There's 6.
Yeah, Abes? No, there's two Abes.
Yes, there's 6.
No, there's two Abes. Abe doesn't create these copies of himself. That's what Aaron's doing. Like, Abe's trying to be responsible with all this stuff. Aaron, see, the one thing they don't tell you in this movie is that, well, they do, but you have to put it all together by the end. But what they don't tell you, like, during the first half of the movie, is that Aaron figured this stuff out before Abe. The way they present it to you, Abe figures out it's a time machine and then tells Aaron. But no, Aaron figured it out a long time before Abe did and had already been making copies of himself. So Aaron is the villain. Aaron's doing all this crazy shit, and it all stems from the fact that he invites this dude to a party that ends up shooting his girlfriend or whatever, and he wants to put a stop to that. That's what starts the whole craziness of this movie.
Do you know what movie I feel
They
like
don't
thi-
allude to. You find that out at the end. It's like, okay.
Do you know what movie this movie is the most similar to that I kept thinking of the whole time I kept watching? I'm like, this movie is like The Prestige, another Chris Nolan movie. Maybe I just think every movie is a Chris Nolan movie, but this
You do. This movie is just The Dark Knight, actually.
but this movie is very similar to The Prestige. You have to admit, where one character is making a double and killing himself, and the other one has a twin, so only one other person, and is completing a magic trick, and then has to take, like, it's very similar where I find where you have two characters juxtaposed by a device that one is cheating, and which is in this movie is Aaron. He's the Hugh Jackman. And Abe is like the Christian Bale, character in The Prestige, where he's doing it more like is more the righteous character, in that way.
Yeah.
So I just kept thinking of The Prestige the whole time I'm watching this movie. It's like, which is weird because one's about magic, but that's
Yeah.
also a time travel movie in a way.
Time travel is magic, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love actually getting some sweet science around the device. Like we never get that. We just get, hey, H.G. Wells made a machine. We're like, hey, we ran into a black hole. It's so beautiful with the A end and the B.
What was the
We'll get
science
that.
behind the machine?
So
Besides
think
being an
about
autosave
how-
box.
no, so time.
That's
is
exactly what it
affected
is.
by
That's what their
gravity.
time machine is. It's an autosave box. It's literally, if you were to take the game mechanics before you fight a boss, you get that save moment. That's what this is. That's
Yes,
the time
it-
machine
okay,
aspect. Yes.
I mean that's a fairly decent analogy, but they get into better explanation.
They
than
no,
box.
they get a little
But-
more convoluted about it, but it's ultimately it's an autosave box. He sets up an autosave, he lives his life for 2 days, and then he resets.
Right.
No,
But-
not really. No,
Yes.
no.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Doesn't he? He
He
Kind
does
does
of,
it like
but no,
6
that's-
times. Abe does it 6 times, and Aaron does it 7 times because Aaron figures out there's a failsafe box.
no. See, they both actually end up.
Did you
building
pay
a
attention to
failsafe
this
box.
movie, Davin?
But yes, I absolutely did. So I can't believe you think there's 6 Abes. So the reason
There
there
is
isn't
6
6
Abes.
Abes, there's 2 Abes because
There's
Abe
6
because you
Abes.
always return. No. As long as you don't, the reason they always hang out in this hotel after they've gone through the box is because they can't.
They can't
Risk-
interact with themselves, right?
Because they can't.
Yeah,
what
they can't. They
do,
can't
could
interact. They can't interact with themselves, and they can't risk breaking.
No,
the
they
timeline. have
could
to keep the
interact
symmetry
with
going.
themselves, but what they
They
can't
could,
risk
but if
is
they-
they can't.
Wouldn't
They
it would be-
can't stop. They can't risk stopping themselves from getting in the box at the exact moment they did.
Yeah, because it
That's
would
the
cause an
only
alternate timeline.
They have to
keep
complete
the
the loop.
symmetry.
Yes, and Aaron keeps doing that, which is why there's so many Aarons. 3, not 6. There's 3 Aarons. There's 2 Abes because Abe doesn't. He does allow himself, like even when you see him doing it, he's watching himself go back in and start the loop. Like that's what he's spying on himself to make sure it happens because he's very paranoid. He's just like, there I go. Okay, cool. No copies of me. Like, because then that one disappears. Like the one that goes in disappears forever because it becomes the one who's standing there watching him. There's 3 Aarons. There's Aaron Prime, there's Aaron 2, and then there's Aaron 3. Aaron Prime gets locked in the attic. Abe Prime gets drugged and put into a bathroom by Abe 2. Those are the only 2 Abes.
What
Now,
What
Aaron-
Aaron goes to
There's 5 Abes
Japan?
and 6 Aarons.
That's Aaron
That's
2.
Aaron 6.
Aaron 2, like Aaron 3 leaves first. He's just like, I'm getting out of here. Aaron 1 gets the family. I'm gone. Aaron 2 is the one is the narrator, and he's the one who goes to Japan and in the end is starting to build a time machine the size of a warehouse.
Right.
Okay,
So it's
all
like
right.
he
Hey,
didn't
all
learn
right,
his
all right,
lesson.
all right,
He's
all right.
such a villain.
Stop. Okay, let's do
Yeah.
it this way, all right? Because Davin's jumping all over the board like this.
I
friggin'
am
movie
because this
is.
movie does.
Let's
Yeah.
have a little conciseness. Maybe let me read through my setup here, and maybe we can start
alright.
dissecting it a bit more because we're jumping all over the board with like absolutely zero direction. So yeah,
Direction
we
is
are introduced to Aaron and Abe, which Abe's played by David Sutherland, Aaron's played by Shane Carruthers, and this whole movie is his fantasy, revenge fantasy, basically.
Shane Carruth.
Shane Carruth's revenge fantasy movie. So by day they work for a corporation, but by night they
It's not
run
a
side
revenge
business
fantasy
out of Aaron's
movie.
garage. It is very
make
much a
any
revenge
sense.
fantasy movie. It
There's-
is. I will explain.
There's no
it.
revenge. There's stopping a act of violence from happening.
No, there
That's
is
not a
revenge.
movie.
My scene I picked out even explains why it's a revenge fantasy movie, Davin. We'll get to that. So these guys.
The guy they want to punch in the face. Yeah, there's the guy they want to punch
Yes.
in the face.
Yeah. Okay. So Abe and Aaron work with Robert and Philip. Robert's played by Casey Gooden, and Philip's played by Anand Upadhyaya. By day they work for a corporation, but by night they run a side business out of Aaron's garage where they build and sell JTAG cards, which is a testing circuit board. And their goal is to fund their pet science projects, hoping to attract venture capital attention. After disagreements over their next project, Aaron and Abe independently work on a device to reduce the weight of objects. However, their invention has an unexpected side effect. Objects placed in the device experience a significant increase in time compared to the duration of the machine was active. So you get this like wild little scene where they're placing their hands in the machine, which is possibly why they have trouble writing later, because their hands have already been affected by time. So they're realizing they stumbled upon a time machine. Abe secretly constructs a larger version capable of holding a person, and he travels back to earlier that day and shares the results with Aaron. I think this is where we get your favorite scene to have, and is where they're testing the watch.
It's one of the best scenes ever in a movie because it's freaking genius.
This is what's going on. There's an AN and there's a BN. Okay, let's say the AN is 12 o'clock, the BN is 12:01. Right, we start the machine with the Weeble at the AN. It travels forward normally.
You gotta write this down.
Aaron, there's nothing to write down.
Well, then I'm writing it.
Okay, fine. Look, it travels forward normally towards the BN, and when it gets there, the feed runs down parabolically until it's just stopped, but it doesn't. It curves back around towards the AN. And when it gets back to the AN, now curve that around. Okay, now the Weeble has experienced a total of 2 minutes. And again, it curves
back around. It curves parabolically.
Right, so it comes back around again, and it does this about 1,300 times, and when it finally exits on the BN, it's traveling an odd number of forward and backward trips.
Oh, what is so special about 1,300? And why is it about 1,300? Why isn't it exact? This is not empirical.
Here, give me that. Yeah, I don't know why it's not exact. There's some sort of probability there. Okay, every time it hits the BN, there's a chance. Okay, a small chance it won't curve back around.
That's key.
The AN,
that there's
and for some reason, it takes about 1,300 trips before it finally does. But it does have to exit, or else we wouldn't be able to see it afterwards. Okay, let's take a look at this. Yeah, 22 hours, 14 minutes.
Yeah, see, it's great. So you got your A end, which is when you enter the box, or like when you enter the box, or no, not when you enter the box, when you turn the box on. And the B end is when you turn the box off. And they do interesting things, like there's this like minute grace from when you turn it on and turn it off, where you can actually get in and out and it won't kill you, which is interesting. It shocked the shit out of Aaron one time. He's like, that sucked. So what they're saying is, because they're trying to create a zero mass machine.
They're looking
which
to
makes
make
sense,
some sort of
like,
anti-grav machine.
Anti-grav machine, anti-mass machine, because time is tied into gravity. We know this. Like, it's ridiculously small. Like, if you were to live on a mountain and somebody lives down at sea level, after about 1 billion years, they will have aged like 1 second less than you. So it's statistically tiny, but it's still there. So if you remove this, so they're just basically channeling that idea. So they removed the mass. So now anything in this box is now unaffected by the flow of time that's happening because of gravity and on our planet. So it's removed from that. And you add into that like the uncertainty principle of particles and things like that. That's why they're like, this Weeble is just going back and forth, and eventually, because you can't predict the path of a particle, it just eventually escapes one of the ends. But they're like, if you could make that decision by being a conscious human, you could choose to leave on the A end, instead of it just being a statistical thing where it eventually just flies off on the B end. Oh yeah, it did always escape on the B end, but it bounced back in between the two. So they're like, if you could just leave when you want, that's time travel. And they're like, so that's awesome. That's awesome. Like, you can climb in a box and then climb out at the time you entered, or like time you turned it on.
Yeah, the time you hit your autosave, you can go back to your autosave and retake the mission again. But if you don't
is
go
that
back,
time? But is that time
really.
Travel, or is that creating, or is it creating a double? Like,
it's a double.
It's creating a time double.
But that should technically happen in all these other movies. They're just not smart enough to include anything like that. They're like, we don't really want to explain to Dustin Hoffman, so let's just not do that. Like, and they don't travel back in time in that movie. Dustin Hoffman and them. So like, there's no really time travelers in Sphere, so that's a bad example.
Well,
but like,
is it-
there
is
should
it-
be.
But isn't there
To-
a theory in time travel that you can't actually travel back in time? You could only travel forward in time, which is
That
what
is a theory.
which is what happens in Time After Time. They go back at the end of
Yeah.
the movie, but he travels forward in time, which is theoretically more probable.
Yeah, he goes back, but he only goes back to the point he started. He doesn't go back to a time before he started.
He
right?
creates.
doesn't go
He goes on the A loop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does.
It is
he
time
does
travel, it's
essentially
just
what this
a-
film does. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a more realistic form of it. It's like not
They
you know,
did the
flying
same
through
thing.
time and ending up in San Francisco. It's
Well, yeah,
turning on a
their-
machine
their
that then
time
creates a
travel
channel
is-
through time, and then you can climb through the back end and get to the front end. It's genius.
It's not so much that you climb through the back end and get through the front end. It's like I have set my autosave. I live my 48 hours. I'm gonna climb back in the box and it's gonna send me back 48 hours, and then I can relive this 48 hours, which is the whole plan here. So Abe basically takes this and he creates a bigger box, and then he goes back in time to let Aaron know about their time travel. And the dual builds and they just refer to it as the box and decides to exclude Robert and Philip from their discovery using the excuse of
Which
garage
had
fumigation.
happened to them at the start of the movie. Like someone had just screwed them over, the guy they want to punch in the face, and then they do the exact same thing to their friends, which is pretty hilarious.
So yeah, these guys, there's a bunch of like out of focus scenes. Like this whole scene's out of focus, and that one bugged me. Abe and Aaron initially profit from the stock market using the time machines, but their experiments become more ambitious. Their actions attract the attention of Thomas Granger. This is a plot hole in the film, who falls into a coma after his time travel attempt.
I like that he's like, why don't we just like pick the right lotto numbers? He's like, what, and get $200,000 every year for like the rest of our life? He's like, yeah, that sounds great. He's like, nah, we need fast money. We need it all now. Like, yeah, that's pretty funny.
So
Yeah, and that's where they find out it was a time machine because it was growing like that protein. Yeah.
So yeah, Abe's basically trying to convince Aaron that he's built a time machine and he's proven it with fungus and all these like other tests and shit like that.
Boss hog, Hossbog. Primer fucked
Yeah.
his mind up.
So
I think
this
that's
is
the
where we get
intention of the
to-
movie.
It is. And to expand your mind.
So yeah, Abe and Aaron are eventually in this field and they're having a discussion. This leads to Jeff's favorite scene in the film.
Yeah. So whatever, we'll find some place. But I mean, so if we go your route with what? A bunch of mini fields? That's a lot of work. I mean, we'd have to. I mean, how many days is that?
Abe, you know what we could use? You know what we could use? Look, I know we've seen a lot of crazy things lately, okay? And I know you're still trying to put it all together in a way that makes sense.
But you
for
got it.
No, I don't. Look, I just want you to understand that what's next is not a prank, okay? I wouldn't do that to you, and I'm not doing that to you. So when you see this,
Bring one with
you can't yell or make any noise or run anywhere, okay? I know you probably feel like you're being tricked or made fun of, but you're not, okay? I promise you, you're not, okay?
The best thing about this scene is Abe's not telling him shit he doesn't know.
Yes.
Aaron is a liar. He's a horrible liar. He's such a good villain. Like, oh man, one of my favorite villains in a movie. Because it comes from his villainy comes from a noble place in the beginning where he's just trying to save somebody's life, and then it just gets out of hand. And then he goes
He's
one
not
of
trying
his
to
copies
save
goes insane.
somebody's life.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. At that
He's-
party. He invited that person to that party, so he feels guilty about that death. So he wants to go stop that from happening, which they do. He successfully stops that from happening.
What I notice about this scene and many other scenes like it is actors love when characters have to act in a scene. So, for instance, in this scene, Aaron is acting like he's seen Abe for the first time, but that's nonsense.
Yeah.
He's seen it multiple times, and he's been through this before. So like I think that's what actors always love those scenes, because they're like, I get to pretend to be an actor as a character. You know, like,
It's inceptioning.
It's
Inceptioning.
inception,
We're going 2 levels deep on this performance, boys. Yeah, no, it's good, man. Like but he does it so well. That's why it took me so many viewings to figure out. Because, yeah, like Aaron was bullshitting. Like that's the one thing in this movie they make the least clear. But that's what's so fun about it.
Well, and Abe,
it's there.
And Abe comes at it from such a place of like he's trying to be genuine, because it's for him he's like, oh, he doesn't know, and I'm gonna let him in on this, and he's trying to be do the right thing, whereas you're right, Abe is like he's already way ahead of that, and is Abe is Aaron is very malicious about it. And only on a rewatch are you gonna you go, oh, okay, I see, you
get the impression that like they keep going on about like cutting people out, like they got cut out of the deal by their boss. Then they cut out their friends. You get the impression that if he could, Aaron would cut Abe out and just do this on his own. But he can't.
Right, but he can't, because Abe's doing the loop, right? So it's definitely interesting. Like
trying to explain this movie is fucking annoying.
No, man,
say that right there.
This is what we do over on Locutors of Trek. We like to have intelligent conversations about things.
I have to say, Amanda asked me like about this movie, and she goes like, "Well, how does it go? Like, what is it about?" And I go, "This is the way I explained it to her. I was like, it's basically The Prestige, but but both people are making time doubles, and two people are doing it together." And instead of having to kill your time double each time, you have to reset the loop. So
which erases your double.
Which erases your double. Which is kind of like killing yourself. Which is like kind of like killing yourself. It's killing like your last 48 hours of what you did. In a way.
No, because they're now your 48 hours. They're now your 48 hours.
Right, and you still remember those things, right?
Like that person is you, but you can still watch them. But as long as they go into the machine at the exact time that you did, they become you, and all of their memories become yours, because they are yours. But if they don't go into it at the exact same time, then there's now two of you, and you can start building separate memories from each other.
Right.
Primer fucked up Boss Hog Hossbog's mind.
Man, everyone. It's fantastic.
It's okay. I ended up watching this video from London City Girl, where it's like an illustrated explanation of the timelines of Primer, because I needed a visual illustrated explanation.
Well,
of these
if she told
timelines.
you there's 6 copies of Aaron, then it's not a very good video.
You're such a moron, Davan. She explains it to such a degree that it makes you look like a moron. Yes, everybody agrees that London City Girl. I'm gonna send you this video later. And
I'll show you a better explanation of it.
You're gonna find it undeniable. I will show you a better
explanation of it. I won't.
There's. Oh my god.
There's 3 Aarons.
Stubborn. You're so fucking stubborn. You're so fucking stubborn, Davan. I can't deal with you sometimes. I'm telling you.
Your video is wrong, dude. I'll send you a better explanation of it that explains very clearly that there's 3 Aarons. And why.
She explains very clearly why there's fucking 5 Abes and 6 Aarons.
She's wrong. I'll watch your video and it's going to be silly wrong.
Okay. I don't even know where I am at like the plot recap of this, because it's all over the fucking board. Basically, Abe wants to make a fail-safe, and he's trying to play the stock market, but Aaron ends up finding out that he has a fail-safe, so Aaron makes his own fail-safe like 30 minutes or an hour before Abe's fail-safe, and starts playing him and tricking him because he's recorded all the conversations he lives through. This happens over a several-day period. At one, and they keep here's the thing: they keep trying to hide from themselves. So they're when they get into the stock market game, their plan is they enter the box, they hide in a hotel, and they wait for them previous selves to go into the box. And once they go into the box, they leave the hotel and go about their day. And that seems to go well for the first 2 or 3 times. But then Aaron forgets he has a cell phone on him, and that creates a bit of a paradox. So he's like, I'll leave the cell phone. And this is about where we get to like fourth or fifth Abe and Aaron. He'll leave the cell phone in the hotel, and then he forgets to get the cell phone in the hotel, so he gets another call, and that ends up making things even more chaotic. And that's where we get to this scene where they're basically together. This is basically the scene that stood out to me. This is the scene I consider that holds up
You
for
are
me.
pure.
Shut up, why'd you ask then?
This is what I would do. I would wake up tomorrow morning, and I'd go over to Gabriel Capital Inc. And I would tell Joseph Platt's receptionist that I'm there to see him. And when he comes out, I would ram my fist through the flat of his nose.
He wants to find a way to do that and then go back in time and tell himself not to do it.
He wants a consequence-free action, is what he wants.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bullshit.
He wants to
Just be a
the
man and
memory of
punch
punching
him.
it and then not
If I knew
have it
that,
happen. Yeah,
you know, no one
exactly.
would find out.
It's
or
a revenge
I
fantasy.
wish that
This
there
is
was a way
a
that I
revenge fantasy.
could do it.
And that's the point
I
of
could
the
tell myself
failsafe,
not to.
because
'Cause I just wanna
he
know what it
says at
feels
one
like,
point
that's all.
that
But this proves my point
The machine
that this whole
is-
movie is just Shane Carruthers' revenge fantasy movie. It's his elaborate way to have a revenge fantasy.
but that was just such a small part of the movie.
Yes, but like, it's still
I don't think
a
it's
part of the
like,
film.
For his big revenge fantasy,
call
it was a
pest control?
very tiny part of his movie.
Oh yeah, that kind of ended shortly. But she goes, you know, are you gonna call in the exterminator? He's like, oh, you don't want to deal with the baby birds, which is alluding to his original self
Yes,
being stuck
so-
in the attic.
Yes, that's already the second Aaron. You can always tell because of what they're wearing. The next one wears a hoodie. The third one wears a hoodie. So those are the three Aarons. They all wear different clothes, and those are the three. There's only ever three. What a silly video you must have watched, and I feel like it
my sweet
skewed your
God.
view of this movie, and badly so.
Sir, you're insufferable. I'm placing the
No.
link in the comments so that anybody who watches this can watch the London City
Mm-hmm.
Girl video of Primer and understand
You do that.
this very complex timeline. Everybody
She
who's
apparently
watched
didn't get
this,
it.
everybody who's watched this movie, and I went through multiple forums of because I wanted to get the general consensus of what people thought of this film, and a lot of people
People
were like,
love this movie.
London City Girl has the best explanation of this film.
She doesn't.
You haven't fucking watched it. You haven't fucking watched it. Don't say she doesn't.
Murphy, I know there's three Aarons, and I can send you an explanation that explains that perfectly. So
Are
when
you
I
talking
know
about that like
something's-
brief video, 3-minute one where he talks about the
No, I didn't watch any
lines?
video. Not everything in the world is freaking.
Okay, so now you're telling
dumbed,
me you're
like,
gonna
on
send me a video,
videos.
but you haven't watched any video. So what the fuck is it?
No, I'm gonna send you an article. There's this thing called text.
Oh,
before
an
things
article.
were put up for
Okay,
stupid people
cool.
for video on videos. People read things in books.
So
I can
video
send you
essay
something
is
that you can
considered
read.
stupid people information, but if it's words on a screen,
No,
then
but
that's,
the one
cool.
the one you're talking about is just because it's
You
a
haven't
video that
watched
people
it.
like on YouTube doesn't mean it's right, man.
Davin,
When I
if
can
it,
send you a
Davin,
perfectly-
Davin, you haven't watched it, and when the majority of the internet is consenting that this one video is actually probably the most accurate portrayal,
You've got
and
the
explanation
majority of the
a very
internet's
complicated,
consensus.
a complicated
You've got the
movie.
majority of the internet's consensus.
Because that's
Or
how
did
a
you just
majority
read
works,
the comments
Davin.
in this girl's
Davin,
friggin'
that's how a
music
majority
video.
works. What do you?
You've
what do you
had
mean
time to
majority
take
of
the majority of everybody on the internet.
I needed to go through a few
What you're saying
forums.
is silly, Murphy.
I needed to go through a few forums just to be like,
So
I
your
wanna,
few forums is the majority.
You know, here's how I found it. I typed in everything wrong with Primer because I thought Cinema Sin surely it's done a film on this. He hasn't. He didn't make a video
So
on
you
this.
tried to search
But
it
then-
from a negative.
No, I tried to search the
Yes.
film from a negative because
tried to
I
search it
wanted
from
to
a
see
negative.
how many plot holes were in this film. And upon my research, I'm gonna admit there's not a lot of plot holes. The most glaring plot hole
No,
is the
there's
Thomas
none.
Granger. The Thomas Granger plot hole is a plot hole.
Why he
Even
went through the
Shane
box doesn't make a lot of sense. I agree with that. It's just like there needed to be one scene that says
Even-
why Thomas Granger.
Even
went
the
through the
director
box.
Shane Carruthers is like that's
Yeah.
I have no explanation for that.
That is a plot
Okay,
hole.
so
Okay,
that,
there is one.
That is a plot hole. All right, so like you're so
I
absolute
mean, but you could
in your
just
thinking
you could just
sometimes
you
it's
could
annoying.
headcanon. You could headcanon that he just saw them do it.
Sure,
and they
yeah,
did
you can headcanon that. That's totally fine. But
That works.
my point standing, Davin, is that a majority of people that have watched this movie, more people than you and I, which is I'm looking for a census here to get some information. When I
You
look
don't
for
know.
a certain particular
That's
film,
not what a
I came
majority
across
is.
this video, and the majority of people that have talked about this video are like, yes, this is probably the best
Yes,
explanation.
the majority
I've
of
even
people
looked
that
up-
have talked about that video, the majority
But I
of people
went
who
with
talked
the-
about that video are not the majority of people who have seen Primer and understand Primer, Murphy. They're people who like that video, and maybe that video is a possible explanation.
Oh my
But
God,
if
you
it
have
says
such an
there are
absolutist
6
thought.
errands,
No, you're so
there are
ridiculous.
no. You do because you like this
You're being
video, and
ridiculous
you
right
think
now.
it
No, I like
represents
this
a
video because it
majority of
actually
people
explained
that
the
you can
movie
take
in a better
comfort in
way than
and
the
wear
movie
like a
explained
blanket.
itself. I like the video
Well,
because
no.
it explained the movie better than the movie explained itself. Okay?
I think there is.
And I will send you an article that explains the movie where there are 2 Abes and 3 Aarons, which is exactly what happens when you watch the movie. So whether you can make a false explanation of this movie that creates 6 Aarons, or at least fudges the explanation, or maybe she meant there's R3, but they can still view
Don't make me
themselves, so
play the
that's 6, but
23-minute
not.
video right now. I will share screen and
I'll
play
send
the
you an article,
23-minute
and it
video
won't take
right
23
now.
minutes to read. I'll send you an article, and you can read in 5 minutes that will explain it perfectly fine.
Yes, and a
Okay,
woman spent
isn't
her time
what-
and made a 23-minute production that explains it in thorough detail.
why is the movie not self-evidently like able to figure out? You know, it doesn't need
What
to
do you
be.
mean?
Yes,
dumb.
you shouldn't
It
need to
doesn't
watch
be-
it 9 times.
It doesn't need to be dumbed down. Like, I understand, like, there's certain things about the movie I like, of like going back and going, oh, okay, I see, or figuring it out. But I shouldn't like have to like. I agree with Murphy. I shouldn't have to watch it 5 times and still be confused about which Abe is which and which Aaron is which. I that was the part that bothered me about the movie. And if you are gonna do that, can you at least narrate a little bit more to explain what's going on? Because there's moments in the movie where I'm like, well, which one's this? Which double
like,
is this?
What part?
You can
know,
tell
you-
by what they're wearing. You can
Yeah, but
always
like-
tell
but
by what they're
you
wearing.
can tell by the color correction of the screen. There's a blue timeline, a yellow timeline, an orange timeline, and they keep jumping back.
There are
back.
tons
Blue
of
is supposed
there
to
are
be like
tons
the-
of clues. They're
yeah,
just
they're
not gonna outright
visual
tell you.
blues, but yeah, it's not outright tell you because the guy didn't know how to make a friggin' film.
What did you say,
This is his
Murphy?
first
There were
film.
3 timelines? Right. 3 errands.
No.
Not 6 timelines. There were 3 timelines. There were 3 errands.
And
Not
is the
6.
movie is the movie and
No,
the movie is
the show
is told from
the
the
film presented 3 timelines.
It's told from the
There's
perspective of
multiple
Aaron, yes. It's
Of-
told from
of-
the perspective
of Aaron 2.
Aaron 2, yeah.
The narration is from Aaron 2's perspective.
Aaron 2, yeah. And he's trying to warn Aaron 1 to stop the whole thing from happening in the first place, essentially. While at the same... Well, he says that, while at the same time building another time machine. Like, who knows what his plans are with this warehouse-style one? That's what's crazy. It's like, what are you going to do with what are you going to, like, move planes back in time? Like, what's your plan here? Armies? Why does it need to be the size of a warehouse? Like...
that would have been a good way to end the movie. Now all of a sudden he's working for the CIA.
did?
You know,
Oh,
you know what I mean. Like all of a
He's just-
sudden
he
he's
moved
like
to
he's a
France.
government agent. Yeah, yeah.
No, I like it better that he's just this crazy rogue with a technology that nobody else even knows exists. That's just fascinating. See, to me, this movie is like a great Star Trek episode, like one of the great Star Trek episodes that are just all talk, and
I don't think
they just
this-
explore scientific ideas. Or
I don't think this-
moral ideas.
the
And this does
script
both.
though would get passed on Star Trek because
No,
you
because
know,
it's not digestible enough for enough people. But that's what's great about it. You can't make a movie like this and spend $200 million on it or whatever. You'll never make it back, at least not quickly. But it's like to make a super smart movie with your expertise as an engineer and mathematician, and like even if it's just for other mathematicians and engineers, that has its place, man. Not every piece of cinema should be for A, dumb people, or B, for as many people as possible. Like trying to reach a broadest audience as possible is good for your dollar and your bottom line, but that is not good for a movie. That's why I watch 50 movies a year now, and maybe one is good. Like, except for this podcast, now we're getting to watch more old movies and stuff. But for new movies, like, it's all garbage, and maybe you'll stumble across a good one. And it's because they're
Alright.
trying to appeal to as many people as possible. This is doing the opposite, and that's why it's a better movie than like Transformers,
All right,
like
Devin,
and all that crap that just churned out.
The line I said about there being like 3 or 4 timelines presented is because there are 3 or 4 timelines presented, but there's also 2 timelines that are not presented on screen. The timeline where they go and punch the gentleman in the face, which causes them to go back and forth and do everything. They're like, oh, I've caused the chaos. And then there's also the timelines that were split off because of their breaking of symmetry. Listen, I'm not explaining it terribly. The video does a better job, but there's timelines that weren't shown in the film, but they are pertaining to the storyline of what's happening.
There are
That's what makes
things
it very
that
confusing.
Aaron does that aren't shown, yes, but he doesn't
Yes.
create copies of himself in those.
He-
Well, he
they
creates
do.
one. That's why he has one more copy than Abe. But yeah. Anyway,
But
continue.
they create copies of themselves again because, like they said, they go do the thing where they punch the guy, but then they have to go back and loop. So that's creating another copy of themselves. So there's at least 2 or 3 other instances where they're creating copies of themselves, not on camera.
No. No.
I can't tell this guy anything. He's just so absolute. And he's like, nope.
I mean,
Not it.
that just takes assumption. You could headcanon that.
But I don't
That's not
understand. Like,
necessarily because there's no way you don't know that they don't close those loops. So unless you see them not close the loop, or you're given definitive proof by seeing another double, like in another close, there's no reason to assume they didn't close the loop.
see, I think with a movie like this, you can make almost any interpretation you want on because there's a bunch of stuff they don't show you. So you can start making up whatever you want about how many doubles or what they did when they were in those
Or
loops.
the Granger thing. Like yeah.
London
you have
City
to fill
Girl
in a
has the
few
best
things.
explanation of this film, and
It's because it's the one you saw in a video and you didn't have to.
No,
read
I
it in
watched a
text.
handful of them, and London City Girls was the best one.
Yes, you watched a few. Did you read any, or did you just limit yourself to YouTube?
Yeah, I limited myself to YouTube because it was the quicker ingestion
Okay,
of
that's
information
very
because I was
limiting.
busy doing
That's
things like
very
getting
limiting.
this show together.
Yes, but that's very limiting. That's just YouTube. That's not necessarily where the
How
best
is that limiting?
articles on
Well,
this.
let me ask you
Because
this.
that's just a
but-
limited
Davin,
pool.
how is that
man. That's
limiting?
a limited
It's
pool.
no, the source of
How is it
information
not
is still
limiting?
the fucking same.
No.
Let me ask you this, Davin.
What do you
did
mean, no, Davin?
What? What, Jeff?
I said what? Let me ask you this, Davin. Did you
Yeah.
learn more from this movie reading about it and what other people thought
Mm.
about it, or did you learn more from it figuring it out, watching it over and over and over?
Yes, that.
From the second one.
From watching, so it's kind of like the way I like learn lyrics, right? So if I learn lyrics, I can't if I try to learn a song lyrics and just like read it 50 times in a day and then try to sing it, I will forget those lyrics. But if I was explaining this to Locutor Dave earlier today, but if I read a set of lyrics at least once every year for like 15 years, I will remember that song, the lyrics. Like that's how my memory works. So every time I watched this movie, I gained a little more insight into what was happening. And I had never read any explanations of it or anything until after I watched it the 5th time this time, which just confirmed what I was thinking. It filled in a few things I didn't quite understand even still, but I had pretty much had it all figured out except for a couple little things about Aaron, which was the thing that the article I read filled in for me was the fact that Aaron figured it out first.
But the movie I feel like makes that pretty self-evident that he figures it out first. You know, the movie presents it to you that Abe does, but once they do the twist with the earphone thing, you're like, oh, yeah. Then you're like, oh, okay, so he figured it out, or went back before Abe did, and he was in the loop before him, and had Abe come to him and go, I found this out, and he had been through that multiple times, before Abe actually did it.
That's a very telling scene with the earpiece where he's listening to
Yes.
their conversation and it just a word changes, so it's different this time.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
my thing with the movie
It
was I
added to
kept
the confusion.
yeah. There was a bunch of moments where I'm just like confused, and I felt like this movie was way before its time. I feel like if this movie
way ahead
comes
of its
out,
time.
but if it comes out now or is like a TV show, everybody figures every little thing out on the internet and figures it out.
As it's
Whereas,
happening, yeah.
yeah, so for it to come out in like 2004, I don't like people hadn't started dissecting everything at that time. It kind of happens maybe a few years after that. Uh, and so for me, it's very interesting that way because I think it's you were saying all the old movies are kind of the ones that have that figured out, but I feel like this one's more like it's ahead of its time. It's more for the now. This movie,
But the now would have ruined it, don't you think?
probably yes, but it probably would have been a TV show. It probably would not have.
And it would have been dumbed down. They would have, like, whatever network you put that TV show on would have forced you to explain things more.
Yes, which
Like,
I
this
think
is just, this movie had to be kind of a singular vision. This movie can't
Okay.
have network poking.
This movie would have benefited
Ideas
from
at
a
you.
bigger budget and having more takes and recording
What would you
better.
achieve with the bigger budget, other than better camera work, maybe? But
I mean it's kind
they
of
w-
it's
Yeah, better
Sorry,
camera
but-
work. They would have had more film stock. They would have been able to do better audio. Like I've got tips. I've got whole bits in my movie morsel that explains the production of this film. But like they would have benefited a lot from having more money.
like isn't
they'd
it
be
kind
good
of
with what they had? It feels real.
Isn't it kind of insane that like all right, Clerks was made for $27,575 in 1994, 10 years before Primer was made, which was made for $7,000. So Clerks
Yeah.
was made for $20,000 more dollars. Now it
Can
has
you
more.
ever imagine a better spent $7,000 than this movie, though? Like, what better can you achieve with $7,000 than this brilliant friggin' movie?
And as I said to
Like-
Dave about this movie because he hadn't seen it, and I said
Mm.
you should watch it because in 2003, 2004, cousin Dave, my brother Dave, was working at a U-Haul. Was what you know? So I was
at
like,
the storage lockers and stuff.
yes, so that's what he did.
Yeah.
Like he was going to university and he was working at a U-Haul place, and I'm like, you should watch this movie because it's very much like of the time you worked there.
Mm-hmm.
He was very into movies at that time and it still is, but like at that time especially he was very like into Tarantino. He would make little movies like with him and his buddy and like kind of Reservoir Dogs-esque stuff, and like I'm like you should watch
Reservoir
this
Dave's.
Reservoir Dave's, yeah. So I was you should definitely watch this movie because it will bring a lot of like nostalgia back for you, which is kind of weird saying that about 2004 because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it kind of is.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. Like
19
I
years.
first saw this movie like 15 years ago, probably, or maybe more. It was new. Yeah. And then like every couple of years, I would come back to it, and then like I'm just like, man, this movie's confusing. And I was a younger man back then, but watching it this time, I understood it way better than all those previous times. But like I think it was because of the accumulation of watching it those other times as well, and
Now,
filming more
Okay,
each time.
I'm gonna point something out here real quick. Although there are at one point 6 errands existing simultaneously, only 3 of them will ultimately continue to exist by the end of the film. The other 3
3
are either early iterations of the prime errand or dead end loops. In one
Yeah,
case,
dead end
literally,
loops, exactly.
it will
They-
simply disappear when the final loop is collapsed.
Yes, exactly. So there were 3 errands. The other ones are
But
just
there are at one point 6
the
errands,
version
so
of
my
them-
statement is correct.
But it's not, because I even told you that, Murphy. I'm like, unless you're just talking about them waiting to close the loops. Like, yes, they could. Those 3 errands can watch the other 3 errands until those loops are closed. But those loops eventually became those 3 errands. Those are 3.
At one
errands.
point, there are 6 of them existing
That's
simultaneously.
just, see, I knew her video was gonna be like that. That's just like stupid semantics. If that's what her video is like,
So-
then that's a stupid semantic video.
But how many Aves
There
did
were
you say there
3
were?
errands.
You said there
There's
were
2
5.
But
There
I
were
don't
2
understand
errands.
where you got the number 5 from. That's what I don't understand.
There's no.
Because-
There's not. 5
Because
A's.
because Aaron's goes to the box 6 times, Abe goes to the box 5 times. Abe sets up what he thinks is the failsafe box, then he creates the original box, and they both go through it. And he's thinking Aaron's only going through that box the first time, but Aaron's actually gone through the box like the second or third time by that point, because he found the original failsafe, made his own, and went back and prior to all that.
The failsafe boxes add the complication, because that's where they want, like earlier they say it's just like a one-time use only, is what Aaron says, which means, you have to go back in the B end from the A end. But he's like, if the failsafe box, like then you can go back even further. Like you can just then there's 2 points at which you can jump back to. Right. So then things start to get confusing.
So they go through the box like 5 to 6 times each. Abe goes through it 5 and Aaron goes through it 6. So there therefore various iterations.
Wouldn't there be 10 Abes then?
Semantics. That's semantics. You can't keep counting these. Any loop that gets closed does not count, because as I said, as soon as you close that loop, that becomes you. So if you're the semantic argument of just waiting for that loop to close and just counting that as another variant, I mean, that's lame semantics. You can say that if it makes you feel better, but that doesn't mean anything.
What are you saying?
I knew this movie was going to do this. Well, after I watched it the third time.
I knew Murphy would hate it and we'd fight about it.
Well, I just knew it was going to be like kind of confusing, and no matter what, we would never get to a resolution where we're like, oh yeah, that's what happened. Like we would all kind of be like, what? Wait,
no, we're just going to keep going in circles like this fucking movie.
The resolution is he's building one the size of a warehouse and he's about to go all Dr. Doom on the world.
Yeah, and Abe wants to go back in time and prevent them from doing it in the first place.
But
and
also,
then you get the split off of, did Aaron go and make the thing, or did Abe actually
Aaron's
pretend
kids from other iterations of Aaron? He also says that. And, like, there's creepy stuff, there's stuff going on there with Abe, where Abe also... Yeah.
How did like Miramax or whatever at the time not come to Shane Carruth and go, here's $1 million, go
make something else,
go make a sequel to this movie, make it like they could have done a sequel where Abe has to stop the villain, but Aaron.
Then it just becomes what every other movie is. This movie is just this beautiful vision. As soon as you start making sequels and it's just picking up on the story, but making it just another action.
Then you're in the Matrix,
Then you're in just Then you're the Matrix Reloaded in the Matrix, whatever the hell they called that third one. What's that one called?
Revolutions for some reason.
Revolution.
Oh, Revelation. Sorry, Revelation. Yeah.
Revelation.
Because Neo's Jesus, But anyway.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you'd end up with that. They wouldn't resemble the original because they couldn't. You can't do that again. No other movie other than maybe your argument of The Prestige. Though I'd see the similarities, but I don't think they're.
Do you know what other
movies resemble each other much?
There's another movie that this resembles, and it might be in your morsels, Murphy, but it's Looper. You guys seen that movie with it's Ryan Johnson's movie? And
that movie's kind of dumb.
Actually, it's not my movie morsels, but there was one bit where Ryan Johnson said he showed the film to Shane Carruthers, and Shane Carruthers told him that all of his time travel was wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Looper was dumb. And Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt do not look alike.
No. As much as you want to like butch up like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face, it didn't work.
It does not look like a younger version of Bruce Willis.
Yeah, weird. It did look weird.
Very strange. Yeah, they just like put that fake jaw. It was so weird, that fake jaw or whatever they put on him. It looked so weird. I don't even know what it was.
He didn't look like Die Hard version of Bruce Willis. See, now you could make that movie and de-age Bruce Willis. And you could probably you could probably do it, but not one.
They could have. You can't de-age his body though.
No,
for the stunts or whatever.
Well, stuntmen. But they did it for Indiana Jones. They could, probably costed a ton.
All right. Well, let's just move on to performance. The performance you'd hold up. I think Aaron was probably the better of the two.
Honestly, I don't think I would hold up any performance in the movie. I don't think the movie relies.
It's not about that. It's not about that now. They didn't need to hire two big actors for this movie.
There was no movie reminded me of. Do you know what this movie reminded me of? It reminded me of Shithouse. because it was
Shithouse. No,
yeah,
Shithouse
that
is
party film that we
awful.
watched. Yeah, because it was a film that was written, directed,
It's
starred,
a singular
produced.
vision
It-
like that.
It
yeah.
was one dude that made his passion project
Yeah.
for like $7,000.
But
and,
but where Shithouse
he had no actors
was just
in
a
it.
guy who like was angry at his girlfriend, so just wanted to yell about how she doesn't just get to cut him off
No, it
after
wasn't
making out with
that.
him. Yes, it
It
was.
wasn't about that. It was about
You
ego
don't
death.
get to. Yeah, oh god, that movie was dumb.
But you know, that's it. It had the same. It has the same air of Shithouse. As this is just a singular person making a film project, and there's no actors in it, so there's really no performances to hold up, in my opinion.
They were both fine. They both feel real. They both deliver their lines like they are people who actually understand what they're saying, and that's what's important. That's why they're good performances. Like Dustin Hoffman could not deliver Shane Carruth's lines believably
Yes, he
in
could.
this movie. Or,
In fact,
no,
Dustin
he
Hoffman
couldn't.
would have delivered Shane Carruth's lines far better. I would actually prefer.
No, he
seeing
wouldn't
Dustin
have.
Hoffman in
Yes,
this
you
film.
would have liked it
Yeah, he
better.
would.
It would have looked more like a glossy Hollywood movie, but it wouldn't have felt.
Yeah, because
like
if they had
real
Dustin Hoffman, they would have had a
engineers
budget to make an
talking
actual
engineering.
movie. Yeah.
No, because they wouldn't have founded like
Dustin
real
Hoffman can
engineers.
say lines. They can keep the lines the same way. The engineer can still write the lines, and you can have a perfectly good actor say the lines.
No,
and
you
perfectly
can't.
well. Star Trek: The Next Generation, sir.
Yes, and a lot of the technobabble comes off real clunky because the actors even admit they don't understand what they're saying, and it comes
Because
off
it was
that way.
techno
And
babble.
they don't even like to say it.
Yes, because it wasn't actual real kind of science.
Yeah,
but,
but if you have a mathematician,
a lot of it
writing
is. It's called
actual
technobabble
science-
as shorthand. That doesn't mean it doesn't have any basis in science. That's just a word we.
It has
that the
some, but
actors
it's not
use.
like
'Cause
actually
it's
proven.
babble to the
Yeah.
actors.
Yes.
But like again, you
my
could
point
have
stands.
like,
Dustin Hoffman could have delivered these lines better. Like there would have been a better budget.
then why
They
couldn't
would
he
have
in
had time to
Sphere
reshoot
with stupid dialogue?
because they
Exactly.
rushed the production and the
Exactly.
dialogue was dumb.
No,
I think David
you
Sullivan
hate every
is
smart
better.
movie, Murphy.
I don't.
Let's
I think
just go
David's
watch-
smart movie.
let's go watch
You just
friggin'
give me
Southland Tales
you
again.
just give me smart movies that are just shittily produced, and I just point out that they're shittily produced.
So, yeah, I think I could see like. I feel like if this movie had more money, it would have and a little bit more refining. Because that's the thing is when one person has all the power, which is what if you look at the credits, I mean it might as well have just said Shane Carruth with David Sullivan. That's it. Like
Yeah.
he did
It
everything.
does. If when you look at like
Yeah.
the IMDb, it just says Shane Carruth, Shane Carruth, Shane Carruth, Shane Carruth, Shane Carruth.
Like-
Shane Carruth, Shane Carruth.
Like, how did he shoot the movie, direct the movie, produce the movie, acted in the movie? He edited the movie.
I don't think
did-
he was
he
the
also,
cameraman. He
he
must
also-
have had a cameraman.
He also edited the
He had a
movie.
tripod.
Yeah. Well, did you I like that one shot that I don't
That
know how
works
they
too.
did it, but they put it like on the hood of the car, and then like and you could see like it's I don't know how they probably put like like a tripod on, like literally on the hood of like on the bumper of the car to shoot that scene. But it doesn't like there's a bunch of times where it doesn't look good, and you're like, it looks like it costed $7,000, but at the same time, like it does tell a decent story. It is somewhat followable, but at the same time, you're kind of like scratching your head throughout the movie. So you're kind of
That's
like,
the point, though. That is the
Yeah.
point. Like you're. It's not for everybody. You're not supposed to get it unless you're like an engineer that studies the same shit he does, at least on the first time. And like again, there's room for that, and there should be more of that. Like there are movies that are way too artsy fartsy as far as like like high, like fine painting art, which I find boring and doesn't interest me. So there's tons of movies about like painting art that bore the shit out of me, and
Sure.
I can't follow because they're not
Devin
for
doesn't
me,
like visual art.
and that's fine. Well,
You don't
I
like-
just like look. I look. Some sculptors are just like, look, I put a cube here and an oval here. Aren't I a genius? I'm like, okay, fine. Maybe I don't get it, and I don't. So those types of themed movies aren't for me. But that's fine. That doesn't mean it's shitty because I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? There's room for those. There should be specialist movies for everybody.
Devin, just because I say this movie could benefit from having more of a budget doesn't mean I'm calling it a shitty movie.
Well, no, I mean every I mean, sure, had more of a budget, but like what he achieved for $7,000 is
It's
freaking mind
impressive. Yeah. No, it's impressive. What he
Mind-boggling.
achieved for $7,000 is very impressive. That's why I got all the awards, and it was the fucking the talk of the town in every film festival that year. Like, there's a reason. it won
$7,000
awards, and-
went to renting out that storage unit.
But if he had had
the majority of the film went to stock, buying film stock. I can talk.
But
about
if he had
that
had like
after.
$27,000, he could have made it a lot better. You know what I mean? Like, what he didn't need
but
to do it for
for me-
that little money. You know, like he could have done it
What
for a
would
bit
made
more.
it better? For me, the movie is 99.
He could have-
the
he could have
strength of the
actually
movie is
gotten
99%
actors.
script and concept.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So that's 99% of it. So you can tinker with that other 1% all you want, and maybe that 1% will be better. But the whole point of the movie
fact that
is
you
the
think that
script
99%
and
of a
the
film
concept.
is a script and 1% is just
This
whatever.
This film.
Fluff.
This film. This film. Yes, this film.
I don't
You
know.
can
but-
add some explosions all
Man
you want
from
for
Earth,
10
apparently.
grand a piece, but like, and The Man from Earth is another great example of you don't need to spend more money. Like, it's those two
Yes.
movies are all
These are
about
both
the
examples
script.
that you can spend
And-
more money and make something visually better,
well, like,
and it would
like,
still just
visually
be
better
as good, if not
doesn't
better.
like
mean-
Davin, like there's a bunch of scenes in this movie where they like literally only had the one take, and that was it. Like that was.
There's
you
a
know,
lot
like-
of
It'd be
scenes,
better
but-
if it was in color.
Well, I mean, like
Would
they could
Clerks
have.
be better if it was in color?
No, but that's not the point. I don't.
By
think.
Murphy's
Yeah,
logic,
that's
yes, they could spend more money, get a better camera, and they would.
But
be
they
better.
did make Clerks
I
in color.
disagree.
It's called Clerks 2 and Clerks 3.
No, you're distracting from the point here. The point is, you would
No,
say
I'm not.
for the fact that you like that movie, they should spend more money and make that movie better.
I think
So
if
they
you
could.
a- if
Kevin,
you a-
Kevin Smith could have
Kevin
spent
Smith
a bunch
did
of money,
spend more money
got a color
on
camera
Clerks and made it look
a
better
nice,
than this
beautiful
film.
color camera. No,
He didn't.
but he could have
okay,
spent more
he
than
got
he
the
did.
film stock, and he made it black and white because it was cheaper on his wallet, but
Exactly.
he still
So
put
he
a budget
could
to the film.
have spent more money and made a
No,
color
he
movie,
couldn't
and that would've
because
made
he
it
spent
better,
all the
right?
money he had. He couldn't spend more
And
money.
so did
He
Shane
spent
Carruth.
all the money he had.
And so did Shane Carruth.
I think Shane Carruth probably could have gotten more than $7,000.
No, but you're still distracted from my point because you don't want to answer. Would Clerks
What
be
do I
better?
don't want to answer?
No, but that's not the right
Answer
question.
this question. Answer. Yes, it is. And let me. I'll
Okay.
ask you, Jeff, because Murphy won't answer the question. Would Clerks be better if it was filmed in color with a fancier camera?
I would say no, but let me ask you this question, Devin.
Exactly. I would say that as well.
If Kevin
'Cause
Smith,
some things
if
are
you- if you-
better lower tech.
No, but let me ask you this: if you ask Kevin Smith, could he have made Clerks for $7,000, and he could only use one take for almost each scene? Would he have accepted that? I don't think he would have. You know,
Well, he had
I
too
think.
many actors to make it for $7,000 unless they're all working for free.
Well,
Like, there's a lot
he had
of
like
people
Majority
in
of them
that
were
movie.
his friends.
He has-
so
he- but
they
he mostly
really
has
much
two.
do it for free.
it's very similar to this movie. He basically has two actors. It's Brian O'Halloran and Randall, the guy who plays Randall.
Yeah, and
Jeff
all the
Anderson.
guys that come into the store and Jay
Yeah.
and Silent Bob.
But none of them have a
But
lot
they were
of
again all friends of Kevin
dialogue.
Smith.
Yeah, some of them did it for nothing. Like Walter did it. He was in the movie for nothing. A lot of them did it for nothing. They were just friends of his. They didn't get paid. They weren't in SAG. You know, like there was the way. I just think if you asked him, and he made it 10 years before Shane Carruth, so like a dollar was worth more in '94 than it was in 2004 or whatever. I just think
Which is
it's
crazy.
like
He made it for 7,000 even after that is crazy.
it is crazy. I don't know how he
Yeah.
like. I mean, the fact that he even had a movie at all is kind of insane because things that can go wrong when you shoot something in post production, especially and with sound and everything, to not have more than one take is kind of insane. You know,
But that's why another.
Okay. I think we've talked about the setting and aesthetics. Let's just get to. I gotta push this along. All right. So the budget for the entire film for Sphere from 2004 was around $7,000. Most of the money was spent on film stock.
Sphere.
Sorry, no. Sorry, I mean
oh,
Primer.
Primer.
Anyway, yeah. Shane Carruth
Sphere
took up the
cost
job of writing.
$7,000.
No, yeah, it feels like it.
That's all they had. That's all they could afford to pay.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Shane Carruth took up the job of writing, producing, directing, editing, and scoring the movie with no prior experience in any of these fields. It took him 3 years to complete the movie, writing the screenplay over the period of a year and working on an independent movie as a microphone operator to get the hang of filming techniques. Shooting the movie took only a month, but the film spent nearly 2 years in post-production due to editing problems during that period. Carruth claims to have quit the movie 3 or 4 times. So he really was like about to go give up on this.
That's
In
a
order
lot
to
of
cut
work, man.
costs,
Do it all yourself.
yeah, it is. In order to cut costs, Shane Carruth did mostly single takes of shots and filmed on 16mm stock. This was then transferred to mini digital video film, which he could edit on his PC. This caused some unforeseen problems. The editing software couldn't handle the sound properly. 2 months of editing were needed just to synchronize the audio to the video. The biggest problem, however, was
That's
the
annoying.
relative lack of footage, which made it difficult to work around continuity errors and technical problems because there often wasn't an alternate take that he could be used. See, this is where more money would come into play because he could spend more money to get takes and like get the coverage he needed to make sure he's not having to deal with these editing issues.
Even not money, he really just needed a second pair of hands, man. Like it sounds like he just needed like somebody to
That's
take the
what
load off
money
his
gets
shoulders.
you, the second pair of
Yeah, but like
hands.
like it could just be a friend he doesn't pay. Like you were just talking about Kevin Smith getting
Yeah,
all
I
his
mean-
friends that not.
But Kevin
He could
Smith
do
had,
that too.
Kevin Smith
I know
had
Kevin Smith
declined.
doesn't get all the allowances. I mean, Shane Carruth doesn't get all the allowances Kevin Smith gets, but.
But
yeah.
Kevin Smith had Dave Klein, who he met in film school, was a director of photography, and he had to pay him. But like that would have been useful for Shane.
Yeah. Over 100 people auditioned for the parts of Abe and Aaron. David Sutherland was cast as Abe without professional acting experience, and director Shane Carruth cast himself as Aaron when he couldn't find the right person for the role.
He played a good Aaron. They both played it very well. They both seemed like real people, which is what this movie's about. They should seem real.
According to the director's
That's
commentary,
what's
everything
scary
was,
about this movie.
according to the director's commentary, everything was done on the first take and dubbed later. The only shot that was redone at an hour and 4 minutes and 40 seconds is where Aaron opens the door to find failsafe A because someone had left a Sprite can on top of the box, so he had to reshoot that one scene.
Oh, that sucks.
One of the
What
pivotal
was that
moments
movie
in
where
the-
they didn't take it out? Like you can see like a Starbucks cup in it or whatever.
that was like
Remember
Game of
that?
Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, exactly. Yeah. They left that in.
One of the pivotal moments in the film is when a character named Granger suddenly appears, having traveled back in time. Why Granger went back in time and was following Abe and Aaron is never explained in the movie, and Carruth has admitted he's not entirely sure himself.
Well, there's some backup there. So they go to Granger for money. Granger's the father of the chick that Abe is sort of dating, but he's only sort of dating her because they want the money from her father, which is Granger. So they were approaching Granger about funding. So it
But then why would
it's
Granger
not out
follow
of the realm
them?
of possible. Well, that's the thing. So if somebody comes to you for funding for their sketchy science, you may want to you would want to do some due diligence and see what they're actually doing. So he probably just followed them to see what they're up to see if it is something that if they're sketchy.
I
bags
think
or
I
if he-
think if a man has a bunch of money and influence, he's not going to spend his free time gallivanting and following some crackheads that tried to sell some crazy time machine to them, even though they didn't
but
say
it's
it in
not
those
some
words.
crackheads who tried to sell him a time machine. It's a guy dating his daughter who came to him asking for money for investment.
Yeah, and with
There's
crackhead
personal connections
ideas.
there. So this guy who's dating your daughter, comes at you with all these kind of crazy ideas, but they're not coming to him with a time machine idea. They're just in their side. They have a side hustle creating cheap technologies and selling them. That's what
So
they're
they-
going for the investment for.
So what? They were getting an
From
investment
Granger.
for their JTAG cards, which was just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
either way.
whatever they
okay,
told
so
him
then
that was.
that even makes it more apparent. Why is he gonna follow them to trail them to figure out their secret memory card, like circuit board business?
No, to see
Like, why
if they're
would
legit
he have any
or
interest
like
in
these
that?
weirdos. Like
To see if they're
he-
weird.
like-
Again, why is a man with money and power trying to be a super sleuth? Like there was no reason
Because
why
they're dating
he
his
followed him.
daughter.
And
Because they're
Because
dating
they're
his
dating his
daughter.
So why is he personally
One of
doing it
them
and not
is.
just hiring somebody else to do it for him?
Because not everybody does that. Just because somebody's rich or has some money for investment doesn't mean they don't do anything themselves anymore.
But why would they implicate themselves into, tailing somebody and like implicating themselves into a possible crime?
Because he wouldn't care. He's just like, yeah, I was following you. You're dating my daughter. Like, whatever. Seeing what you're up to. You guys sketch bags always go to this friggin' U-Haul place all the friggin' time. Like, what the hell's up with that shit?
This is just wild
And then he follows them.
sir.
Yeah,
This
it
is just wild
'cause it's all
headcanon
you
because
can-
you don't want to,
Well,
you don't
not
want to
the stuff
admit that there's a
about the
plot hole
investment.
in your precious film.
No, I already told you that's the closest thing to a plot hole in that film is that they don't explain why Granger went back in time. But it's easy to assume because they do explain that they went to him for investment and that Abe's dating his daughter. Like, that's enough personal connection for him to potentially follow them to their
Right.
U-Haul. Now,
Yeah, and there's
why
stuff-
he
there's-
would then jump through a crazy rando machine, that doesn't make any sense. But unless he just sees them do it and is just like, all right, I'll do it too. That's still kind of
Or-
crazy.
or he
'Cause
sees
Granger's
two
a
of them.
crazy guy. Or he sees two of them. And yeah, okay, and then he maybe even figures out what it is if he sees two Abes or something, yeah. That's
You know,
something.
like,
I
that's
didn't
the
think of
thing is,
that.
like, there's things that happen in this movie that have to happen off screen because
Yeah.
there's too many loops and there's too many, there's too much time that goes by.
Too many plot holes, if you will. The
No,
final
well,
movie
and
morsel,
it's
the
not a
phrase
hole, it's
time
just an
machine
unexplained
is
detail.
never stated in the movie. The time machine is always simply referred to as the box. So they never use the word time
What's
machine.
in the box?
this movie. The film's edited by Shane Carruth, music by Shane Carruth, produced by Shane Carruth, directed by Shane Carruth. Everything's by Shane Carruth. It was released on October 8th, 2004 by Shane Carruth. Running time 77 minutes by Shane Carruth. Budget of $7,000 by Shane Carruth and a box office of $841,926 for Shane Carruth. He made a lot.
That's return on investment.
That's a huge
That's
return.
return on investment.
It's probably the greatest return on investment in films.
And
that
Murphy,
we've
now let me make
watched.
one more point about funding. How many movies have we watched, including Sphere, where they spend a shit ton of money and then lose friggin' money? It's not like there are
Not that many.
downsides to spending more money
Yes.
at times. A lot of the times. Like, more money doesn't always equal better. More money just means you lose money in the end sometimes. Like, he didn't take that chance at all. He's like, well, surely I'll
didn't have
make
to
my
take that
$7,000
chance at
back.
all.
And then he freaking killed it, man. He's almost made $1 million off a $7,000 investment.
No, I
Shit, son.
doubt he made $1 million. I'm sure like that portion of the money was probably given to
True,
whatever
but who knows what other
distributing
ways
company
he's
he had.
turned this into money for himself. Who knows?
He probably
Well,
at least
that's
walked
just
away
box
with a cool
office.
$500,000.
Yeah, that's just box office. So
What did he make? Was this like a cult movie that everyone watched
It
on
was.
DVD? Yeah. So he
Yeah,
probably made
it
a lot
was.
from that.
yeah, exactly. Then in whatever streamer may eventually pick it up, he'll probably make some money there, unless one has already. Like, there's lots of money to be made off this movie still.
Yep.
But
I
yeah,
guess so.
all right. Well, let's rewatchability. Yes, it has that because it's needed. Like, not only is it
It's a
rewatchable,
mandatory. You have to
rewatch it.
watch this
Yeah,
film
it's
9
mandatory
times just to
rewatchability.
understand it.
Yeah, mandatory rewatchability. It's a unique category. Maybe I should
I
write
feel-
a special category for that.
It's a mandatory, but I feel like I got to the point on my third watch where I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care which Abe or which Aaron it is. I was
But
like,
that's fine.
I get
It's
it.
not for everybody. It's
It's,
really
it was
not
distracted
for
by
everybody.
the 5 people conversations that would happen at any given moment. You're trying to follow one conversation, you got 3 people like arguing over it or whatever. It was really distracting.
But
It was
for me,
like,
there's just more things to be interested here than in, like, basically any movie I've seen produced in the last 30 years, where it's like, you'll watch it once and you'll get everything. Don't worry, you'll get everything. Not only will you get everything, they will smash you over the head with everything, so you definitely get everything. This is the
Because
opposite.
they
of
respect
that.
our time.
And man, no, they
I-
don't respect your intelligence, Murphy, and they don't
they
respect, your money.
our time.
Do they, by making a shit movie 3 hours long? How many times have we wanted to shave an hour off a friggin' movie on this podcast, Murphy? That's not respecting your time. This movie respects your time by not being 3 hours long. It's very concise.
No, it's only an
There's nothing
hour
can
that you
cut
have
out
to
of this
watch
movie.
9 times, so it's 9 hours
Yeah,
in
there's
total.
that. But only if you will enjoy getting more out of it. There's more to get out of it upon rewatches, which most movies there aren't. You can
I
go
feel
back
like-
and enjoy some performances you like again, but there's nothing to learn from another.
I feel like a
watch,
lot of
mostly.
people would watch this movie though, David, and just be like, "I'm confused again." You know?
Yeah, a
Like,
lot of people would. It's not
know?
for everybody. It's people who have an interest in science and math and astrophysics, and it's for those people.
I like all those concepts, and I do think that the movie is. You're right. It is more to the what's the STEM type field of people.
Yeah,
That's what this movie is. Who it's for.
yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like it didn't need much of a tweak. You were saying, oh, they could dumb it down, and then it's for everybody. But actually, I think that it just needs a little bit more direction, so everyone can enjoy it, not just the mathematicians.
See, that's what
You
I
know?
don't want. That's what they try to do with
Well-
every movie now. They want it to apply to the broadest audience possible, and that makes every movie bad. That's why every movie's bad. Nothing's special, because you can't be special if you're trying to appeal to everybody.
I hear your point. I think
I like this as a STEM movie, and people who are outside of STEM that want to try to venture in there, I think they should, and they can get a lot from it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like an artsy movie. Like there's sure there's lots of movies about fine art that are very good movies, and I might even enjoy. But man, it's like it would be a choice to try to jump in there and venture into it, like people would have to with this movie. It's just like I'm gonna have to try to decipher stuff I don't care about, or like derive meaning from things I don't care about. There's a lot of people are gonna watch this movie and feel that way. Absolutely. It's like, why do I care about all this math and technobabble? It's just like, well, if you don't care about math and technobabble, you won't and you shouldn't.
But there wasn't
But
even a
if you
lot
do,
of math or
this is
technobabble in
genius.
this film.
Yeah.
There was
I
like
agree.
there was a 5-minute explainer about his time travel, and then it was just like subterfuge. The rest was just subterfuge. There's no real math or science behind it. That's all just kind of
No,
glossed
there is
over.
no. There's paradoxes in time. It gets into that sort of stuff. Yes, it like kind of falls
But
away
it-
from the math and gets into more of the theoretical.
But David, it gets to a point in this movie at the end where they have to lay the twist on you, which is the twist that Abe
That
knew.
Aaron was.
Aaron
doing
knew
it
all
all
along. Right.
Yeah.
So each time you rewatch the movie, you're going back to the A part of the loop where you're like, I gotta go through this motion again, which is what the movie is. I get why it's like that, but at the same time,
Yeah.
it's frustrating. Yeah, it's very meta.
It's
Yeah.
very meta. I didn't think of it in that meta sense, but yeah, it is totally. Yeah, go back to the A end and give her another watch.
Yeah.
But it's like in reverse, because in the box
You
you
kinda-
start at the B end and then go to the A end. But you know, you get
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah, you get
Yeah. And the big question: does it hold up? For me, it does. It's my favorite movie, and I know it's not for everybody, so whatever.
See, what I would say about this is I would say it holds up because just like Sphere, where I would say I would show someone this movie and I'd say you have to watch this movie, and just
I think everyone needs to see this movie, unless it's just totally not up their alley at all.
right. Where like that's the thing. When you have a movie like this, it's very heady. It's almost best watched alone. And you say where you really have to pay attention to it. But I would definitely show someone this movie and be like, check this out. I already did. I told Dave to watch it. So,
Yeah.
and hopefully he does. And I'll see if he likes it. I think he'd be confused too, though.
I think he'll like it. Maybe not on first watch, but or like he'll be. Most people are left with questions after the first watch, for rightfully so.
Yeah.
But it's also because a thing where like the rewatches really help is then you're getting used to its style. The thing that throws people for a loop, I think, with this movie is they're expecting exposition because that's what you're given in every other movie. So you're just sitting there as a viewer waiting for the inevitable exposition that never comes.
It's not the lack of
But in that
exposition
time-
that throws people off.
No.
It's the editing. It's the J-cut editing that throws people off. That's what threw me off, at least. Is the
Most people
is
don't know
the-
what a J cut is, Murphy. Like, what's a J cut?
Do you not know what a J-cut is?
Most people don't know because most people don't give a shit about that, Murphy.
Yes.
Like,
Okay. Well,
you're
just to explain for the people that may not know what a J-cut is, a J-cut
jump
is
cut. You
them
mean a jump
playing-
cut?
No, that's not a J-cut.
No.
A J-cut
Okay.
is they start playing the audio from another scene. You're watching one scene. It's like a dude standing
Oh,
in
yeah,
the field,
yeah.
and then you start hearing this conversation, and then it cuts to like mid-conversation, and then it cuts the scene of that conversation. That's what a J-cut
Yeah.
is. This movie
Yeah,
is
they do
littered
those.
with J-cuts.
Yeah,
right?
there's lots
It's just
of those.
littered with J-cuts.
It's different. It's different.
It's a hard take on that style of editing, but it doesn't lend to the storytelling because it makes it confusing, and you have to watch it several times to be like, oh, I see what's happening. You know, like you need those last 10 minutes to understand the first like 50 minutes of this film.
You know, that's the point too, though. Like he's wanting to keep you guessing until he lays it all on you,
Yes.
and that's kind of the fun of the journey. Like I don't want too much explanation because that takes away the fun of the journey. But
It's-
Okay,
It's
well,
kind-
let's wrap this up. I'm to say this.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
holds up. It begrudgingly holds up for me. It's an intelligent movie. I'm not going to deny that fact. I think it could have benefited from more budget, more shot takes, maybe just
Yeah.
like better coverage.
More takes.
Like it's a like this is a film that like it's had a really solid idea. It had a really pretty decent execution, although convoluted. Like it's very convoluted and congested. But yeah, for a film from 2007, for
by
$7,000,
necessity.
it holds up. Yeah, by necessity.
That's the thing
Like,
about
yeah.
timey-wimey stuff. Timey-wimey stuff gets convoluted.
Like
And it's often why I
like the
don't like
last
timey-wimey
hour and
episodes
half
of
of this
Star Trek.
podcast, we were on a roll, and then we
Yeah.
started talking about this film.
Well, I knew
Yeah.
Primer would be half the episode at least, but yeah.
2/3 of the episode.
All right, well, let's do our time travel movie ranking, shall we? For me, it's Primer, Time After Time, and then Sphere.
For me, it's Time After Time, Primer, and then Sphere.
For me, it's
Jeff,
Sphere.
Sphere.
Then I would go Primer, and then I would go Time After Time.
You know, I almost flipped Time After Time and Sphere, but
It's Time After Time.
Sphere just annoyed me too much. It just, the more we talked about Sphere, the more angry I got.
At least Time After Time was like coherent and concise and actually.
Yeah,
kinda
it's just
fun.
dumb.
It is.
It was just kind of dumb and fun, yeah.
That's what I like about it. I love how dumb
Yeah.
it is.
No, I'm talking about Time After Time. It's just kind of dumb and fun. Like Sphere's
It's a
just
dumb fun movie.
weird.
Well, it's a
dumb.
rom com. It's that movie's a rom com
Yeah, exactly.
with a murder mystery going on, like not mystery, murder chase going on. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thanks
for
for
having me.
sitting there while Murphy and I yelled at each other. And, it always takes a special
We
kind of
appreciate your
patience.
patience.
We do. We really do. But
Hold up.
we have a little thing here called Final Take. And what I'll do here, well, actually, before the final take, we'll bring up the share the screen here, and everyone can take a look at our movies. There we go. Those are A movies. We got 2 A movies today and a new B movie. Still, not that many C movies. Most movies we at least find, one of us at least finds something good out of. But every now and then, there's a stinker.
I see the American president ended up in the same category as Sphere.
Well, cousin Dave was quite high on American president.
Right.
So his vote carried the day. But I don't think Murphy and I were quite so high.
I agree with the I Heart Huckabees. I'm not a fan of that movie.
Oh, God, it was awful.
Thanks.
It's
for the
awful.
applause, huh?
Yeah, so that's where we're at. And now we'll get to the final take. And what I'll say with that, with all this timey-wimey shenanigans, the back and forths, the forward and backwards, the fisticuffs and chases, but the thing about these time travel movies is it's not really about the past and the future in the end, is it? It generally boils down to trying to preserve our present, the present as we know it, the present day. So why don't we keep that in mind and try to preserve our present as best we can, whether that's environmentally, socially, in every way. Let's try to maximize our present to reach the future. Yeah. All right, that's my final take. Let's preserve the present. Murphy, as always.
It's been a pleasure watching the film with you guys. And, with you folks that join us, please leave your comments, hit subscribe, do all that good stuff. Let us know what you thought of these films. If you didn't know, we're part of a united federation of podcasts where we talk about all sorts of things from, movies like our next episode where we're going to be talking going alternate dimensions. We're covering The Quest for Love, Coherence, and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a film I've been desperately wanting to watch since it was released almost a year ago. So it's going to be good to cover that one eventually.
We're watching a movie with the guy from Buffy in it?
Yeah. That is our next guest pick, Andre Mayette, who also happens to be your co-host for the show X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show where these guys talk about the 1997 or 1990s X-Men cartoon. They did an interview recently with voice actor Adrian Hugh, the voice actor of Nightcrawler.
Huff.
That is up Adrian Huff. That is gentleman. His interview is up. You should go check that out. Andre is also the host of Graphic Histories, the Graphic Histories podcast, where they talk of all sorts of things with artists from all fields. You should definitely check that out. There's the Super Mader Brothers podcast, which our guest Jeff Mader is a proud member of, where they talk about Big Brother.
They are brothers.
Survivor.
We are brothers.
And speaking of the Mader family, we got Eamon Mader with Eamon on Track, talking all things music.
New one
not sure
tomorrow.
when the next episode's going to be. New one tomorrow. Do you know what the album is?
Yes, I'm on it. It's White Album, Beatles.
Ooh, the White Album with the Beatles. Nice. And we also got a show called Trivial Debates where we cover things of all sorts. We got an office theme one where we've got Jason Phillips hosting, Jody Simpson coming in, James Elkins, and Heather Naty. That's going to be a good time talking all things Dunder Mifflin. I'm looking forward to that.
Heather's going to chew those boys up and spit them out, I tell you.
She's going to just turn them into
it's
mincemeat.
going to be bloody.
When she said yes, I was like, yes.
Jody's done.
I was so excited.
Yeah. Jody's done.
We've got the Hellbound podcast with Michael Chan and Kyle Blackburn. They talk things about horror and their general life. And we also got Live Long and Podcast, our Star Trek podcast, where we talk about all things Star Trek, from review shows to little radio theater to Locutors of Trek, where they get into the deep nitty-gritty science of things. Maybe have some interviews with a gentleman named Derek Tyler Attico, the author of the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko. That is Monday. It's going to be a good time. And that's basically it for our little federation. So check all those podcasts out. So we're going to leave you guys with the coming attractions for next episode. Thank you for joining us. And like I said, enjoy the movies.